At the recently concluded two sessions, China's most important political event of the year, policymakers lowered the country's economic growth target for the first time in 3 years.
The goal, announced at the opening of the National People's Congress, is a clear downgrade.
Chinese leaders want to leave room for structural adjustment.
But beyond the muted targets, there are pockets of quiet momentum. Industries showing resilience even as the broader outlook cools.
"感觉非常壮观，
以前都想都不敢想的东西，
很多未知的星球。
上太空旅行嘛。
我们国家这么强大嘛，对吧？ I wanted to cry。
50秒，7、6。
Since its first successful satellite launch in 1970, China has steadily risen as a major space power. In 2025 alone, the country carried out 92 space launches, including 50 commercial missions, making it the world's second largest in total launches. And by 2030, China aims to land astronauts on the moon. At the Shenzhen Science and Technology Museum, a futuristic building designed by the renowned firm Zaha Hadid Architects, a massive space exhibition was recently held there. Local media called the event a space feast.
You're looking at what's left of the Chinese Long March 2F rocket, which launched 2 Chinese astronauts to space in 2016. Now you see the scratch marks and the scorch marks all across the body of the rocket. And that's a vivid reminder of the journey that it's undertaken. And here's a part of the 3A rocket system responsible for launching satellites and spacecrafts for China's lunar exploration program. Now the point of this free exhibit, to show that lofty ambitions can be within reach.
It's estimated that China's space industry will keep blasting off at full speed in the coming years. Annual space launches are expected to breach 100 in 2026. The number of commercial satellites sent into orbit is projected to accelerate from about 300 in 2025 to more than 1,000 a year in the next few years. Last year, the China National Space Administration set up a new department to oversee the fast-growing commercial space sector. In January, the country's main space contractor unveiled a 5-year roadmap, including plans to build a space tourism system.
那些演员明星啦，都是可以上太空旅行了，这看新闻上也在看到了嘛，是吧？提前预定名额。
其实想想的话，还是非常想去的，因为我想看一下地人说和地平说到底哪个是真的，哪个是假的。因为我没上过太空嘛，所以我也不知道这些理论是否是真的。
In addition to sparking interest and inspiring young minds, this exhibition was also a statement of Shenzhen's ambition to play a bigger role in China's growing commercial space industry. Luohu in Shenzhen was the very place where economic reforms in China first took shape in the 1980s, opening the country to the world. Sitting next to Hong Kong, the district is better known as a cross-border trade and shopping hub. In recent years, it has grown into a hub for companies in the low-altitude industry. Today, Luohu is setting its sights even higher, reaching for space. Right in the heart of Luohu, this building houses a cluster of commercial space companies. It forms part of the local government's drive to develop a thriving space ecosystem in the district. The aim is to attract leading companies, firms strong enough to anchor the industry and draw in suppliers and partners. One of them is Magic Cube satellite technology. It makes solar arrays that helps power satellites when they're in orbit.
是商业航天的一个产业的急剧爆发，现在已经是正式的开始了。尤其像我们所在的这栋楼呢，就叫罗湖区空天科技大厦这也就相当于就吸引了这个参与天机这个中科星族、蓝箭航天，还有魔炮卫星。像魔炮卫星跟参与呢，其实有很多的一些业务合作。 他们在做的一些事情呢，其实跟我们有很多的这种融合点最终呢，他们一些终端未来也可以运用在我们的卫星上，对，做一个真正的一个产业链协同。
Chang'e Space, the company that Mr. Zhang referred to, builds and operates space-based information transmission systems. It's just 10 floors down in the same building.
像我们落地罗湖的话呢，首先是 罗湖给我们提供了关于产业政策，还有我们的空间保障，还有我们的人才引进相关的优惠政策。再加上它对于我们的出海以及全球化有非常好的服务，给我们介绍了很多的出海的资源，包括论坛或者是企业。同时我们也能通过落地罗湖去毗邻我们的大湾区香港的一些核心资源，然后再到我们走出全球包括我们深圳的话呢，也是设立这个国际运营中心，它相较于北京或者其他地区来说，会有更多的国际化的优势。
With companies like Changyu and Magic Cube, Luohu, which has limited land, is carving out its own niche alongside traditional hubs such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu. This, as commercial space, is becoming a key growth engine of China's overall space economy. Still, having more companies and more satellites in orbit only matters if it becomes economically sustainable.
它毕竟是一个商业化的产业，我们最需要解决的问题就是盈利。然而，盈利最需要解决的问题就是找准我们的场景，也就是我们不管是数据应用的场景，或者是我们具体服务的场景，都需要有一个精准的定位尤其是对于我们海外的地区，可能一些我们国内的企业也好，或者是对内对外的交互，它都会有一些对于需求不是那么准确的情况，导致我们最终落地或者是实现服务没有达到我们想要的预期。
Some estimates put the number of space companies in China at more than 600. To scale up and become profitable, many inevitably have to look overseas. Changyu, for instance, has formed initial partnerships in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. But geopolitical tensions amid great power rivalry could complicate Chinese companies' overseas ambitions.
On aerospace sectors.
Dr. David Dong is widely regarded as an industry insider in China's space sector. He has served as a consultant to state-owned giant China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation and held senior positions in space-focused startups.
China, in terms of strategy, space strategy, has been long that trying to be independent to anybody. So since maybe 20, 30 years ago, China want to develop everything on their own, on our own. Rockets, satellite, application, space station, landing the moon, landing to the Mars, everything should be done within our own hand. This is the strategy. But on the other side, if there can be more collaboration, I believe more people, more countries can be shared the benefit in the future.
Still, Dr. Dong said the rise of commercial space companies is opening up new ways for countries and businesses to work together.
10 years ago, there was no private space company. And now the figures are various, but I think there will be several hundred at least private companies in China for the whole industry chain, from rocket to satellite to data to terminal to service, anything regarding space. So I believe for private entities, they are having a very good time in China. In commercial space, I don't expect every country has its own supply chain. So you always have to outsource something from others, right? In that case, I think like products trading, like knowledge transfer, like training, talent training, could be one of the collaboration field in the future.
There's J Beauty, then there's K Beauty. Now C Beauty is seeking to redefine the look of the industry. Chinese cosmetic brands that were once barely on the radar are now turning heads in markets like Southeast Asia, standing out against big global names, blending a savvy, social media-driven strategy with a bold and distinctly Chinese aesthetic.
We've seen them a lot in like TikTok, Xiaohongshu.
They have like really various colors.
Their prices are reasonably priced.
But can Chinese cosmetics brands make their influence last after the initial glow fades? Or will their success start to crack once the first layer of excitement wears off?
Hi ladies, so this marks the official third month of my professional makeup training course in Shanghai. So I want to quickly make a video.
Beauty enthusiast Xu Meicheng has been swept up in the C-beauty wave. Keen to upgrade her skills, the 26-year-old who is based in Singapore traveled to Shanghai last year to attend a makeup academy run by a Chinese cosmetics company.
The resources here is amazing, so that's why I'm here in China instead of anywhere else. The good thing about the academy that I am in, right, is that they actually include all kind of makeup styles. We learn Korean beauty, Japanese beauty styles, Thai beauty styles, in fact. And the interesting thing I realized is that in China, to be a professional makeup artist, you have to learn lighting. You have to learn to be a professional camera person. You have no idea how many camera stands and lighting equipment I have at home, because apparently being a makeup artist requires me to do hair, makeup, and lighting, everything.
There's a reason strong camera and lighting skills are crucial for makeup artists in China. Social media has been the place where trends are set, driving the rapid rise of several major local makeup brands.
Domestic Chinese brands, so C-beauty brands, have captured a meaningful share by moving faster on product iteration and also by mastering social commerce, live streaming commerce, KOL ecosystems, whereas consumer preferences are increasingly tied, as we mentioned, to skin health and more measurable performance. So not just branding. Gen Z and younger millennials definitely set the cultural agenda, not just by spending, but also by shaping discovery routines and what this sense of trust into C-beauty products looks like.
China's domestic makeup market stands at about $40 billion, including the wider beauty and personal care sector, where barriers to entry are typically higher, brings the total to nearly $80 billion. The industry has grown steadily in recent years, with new local brands emerging and designing products that embody a dainty, homegrown Chinese look. But behind these seemingly delightful color palettes lies a ruthlessly competitive market. In 2025, more than 17,000 new brands entered the market, even as nearly 27,000 others folded. According to a survey by state media Xinhua, beauty products priced under 300 yuan, or about $43, account for more than 70% of the market. Amid a weak economic and job outlook, Chinese consumers are increasingly drawn to what locals call ping tea, or lower-cost alternatives to higher-end products.
We need to think that color cosmetic tends to be more volatile. It can spike on trend cycles. We have seen several, such as like dopamine makeup or more minimal style, and also influencer launches, but it's also more sensitive to sentiment shift.
C-beauty's rise has not been without controversy. In recent years, there have been reports of marketing scandals and allegations of products containing banned ingredients. Last year, China's drug regulator introduced new rules to tighten oversight of the industry.
The consumers are more and more educated, and so their expectations are also higher in terms of efficacy, in terms of transparency, and the R&D behind the products. This shift is driven by, on the one hand, the rising demand of evidence-based claim then, and also the premiumization being defined as measurable performance rather than just a luxury image that it doesn't serve a purpose.
Amid shifting consumer sentiment, older and more established C-beauty brands are trying to move beyond the budget image and break into higher margin segments, like skincare, a category long dominated by foreign brands. One example is Mao Geping. Named after one of China's most renowned makeup artists, Mao Geping now commands pricing power comparable to that of leading Western brands. In China, prices for marker-pink products range from about $31 to $158. Take this dual color concealer, for example, it costs around $41. And for this foundation, over $47. The pricier products also often come with claims of using more premium ingredients. At this pricing, it's on par with some mid to higher-end Western beauty brands. Leveraging the social media success, some younger brands are pushing into physical retail and overseas markets to give their growth story a new finish. Last year, cosmetics firm Joy Group opened its first standalone stores outside China in Singapore. The company is behind brands like Judy Doll, known for its affordable eyeshadows and blushes.
Just a few years ago, there was still a taboo around made in China. But after, I think, the boutique opened up, it really sent out a very strong message whereby now everyone is accepting this C-beauty wave. The brand actually started off as an online brand in China, so we are only exclusively on e-com platforms like Tianmao, Taobao and all that. But right now, China actually pivoted out from the online era and going into offline.
While brands like Judy Doll have reported a strong start in Southeast Asia, their next test is to turn early curiosity into lasting trust and make their appeal stick. Meanwhile, expanding beyond Asia, particularly into regions such as Europe, will be a whole new shade of challenge.
Typical pattern would be Southeast Asia and any culturally adjacent Asian market. Obviously, because it's easier in terms of cultural translation of the products that we're gonna export there, and also there is a strong social commerce present from the Chinese brand side. Then on a second level, we have markets that have strong cross-border e-commerce mechanisms already in place, again because the entry is easier. And then on a third level, we would have the EU, UK and US because compliance, labeling and also brand narrative are already matured there. So for C-beauty brands to impact and enter these markets could take a little bit longer.
China's average life expectancy is expected to rise to 80 years in the next 5 years. By 2035, the number of people aged 60 and above in China is expected to exceed 400 million. A recent report estimated that the size of the silver economy may rise from 7 trillion yuan currently to 30 trillion yuan by 2035, accounting for about 10% of the country's GDP. But the rapidly aging population presents both opportunities and challenges, particularly for the healthcare system.
In terms of the healthcare, people really lining up for hours, making appointments with doctors, and the hospitals are really overcrowded.
China's per capita healthcare spending came in at about 2,500 yuan, or roughly $360 last year. This compares with nearly $6,000 per capita in OECD countries in 2024, highlighting substantial headroom for growth and investment in healthcare. One area where demand is climbing fast, but which is facing a severe shortage of trained professionals and proper facilities, is palliative care. Reports suggest fewer than 3% of patients in China have access to specialist supportive care.
作为北京市海淀医院，我们是最早的一批中国大陆的国家级的试点，也是北京市的第一批试点吧。那我们从业到现在，其实已经走过了快8、9个年头，那就深切地感受到，就是我们说进一步变得专业化，然后能够非常很有能力的去应对、去帮助患者的，在这一块上的，我们说再往上走的话，其实是有难度的，因为中国大陆目前还没有 缓和医疗的这个学科。目前的话呢，在我们北京的现状的话，大部分从事缓和医疗和安宁疗护的医生的话呢，大部分是从肿瘤科和老年科还有疼痛科的医生去转过来去做这个安宁的这样的背景是比较多的。但是我们实际上都没有去系统学习缓和医疗的这样的一个背景啊，所以就非常急需有这样的一个机会。
That's why a group of hospitals in Beijing, including Haidian Hospital, tapped Singapore's Tan Tock Seng Hospital and philanthropic organization Lian Foundation through a 3-year program. Under the initiative, more than 1,000 Chinese healthcare professionals from at least 18 medical institutions will be trained through on-site and online workshops, which includes areas such as symptom relief and therapeutics.
The gaps that we see in Beijing is the same gaps that every country will go through in the development of palliative care. The usual hurdles will include, number one, you need to build a critical mass of healthcare professionals, and this is not just doctors. It has to be doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists, pastoral care providers, and this whole group, this multi-professional team, need to be set up to be able to deliver quality palliative care to vulnerable patients. So you need to hit that critical mass. The second thing that you will need is actually to convince the population that palliative care is not about us giving up on our patients. On the contrary, we are trying to add on quality time for our patients when life-prolonging treatment has failed. So this is the stigma that most countries will need to overcome.
在目前就是中国现有的这个文化下边，大家还是很忌讳去谈死亡这件事儿，或者是觉得不吉利，或者是觉得害怕啊，有很多的因素。那就形成了一个现状，大家都觉得我不想去谈这件事，害怕去谈。但是这个回避就造成了，当我们真的是生命走到尽头的时候，大家都会觉得就措手不及啊，不知道怎么办啊。有很多人会有这样的误解，实际上还是基于我们的普及教育不够嘛。那所以我们就更要有更多的机会啊，去让他们听到，就是真实的缓和医疗和安宁疗护。是可以提供非常多的支持，而不是像咱们想的说我只是放弃了治疗。
In its latest 5-year plan, China pledged to step up its response to its aging population by improving policies to better support elderly care services and related industries.